It's time for another lap around the track with all the latest in motorsports interviews. Sometimes we get bent feelings, but we can't wait for the Bent Fender podcast with your hosts, Nathan Conway and Wes Llewellyn.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Bent Fender podcast. My name is Nathan Porkchop Conway. I'm the driver of the number 40 stock car. We start every episode out the same way. I don't know why we do that, but I just feel like I need to introduce myself to you. With me, as always, is Wes, the carburetor Llewellyn. It's been a hot button issue for us, dude, and hopefully we're gonna get that lined out soon.
I think I am, however, metering fuel in my driver's side.
Right.
I think I am. I'm not sure.
Well, we are having a problem with that. Not anything to do with the carburetor construction, I don't think, but I think it's going to have to do with maybe not getting it rebuilt for 3 years. So, hey, boo, I'll tell on myself. So, but here's the thing. We'll go ahead and get a shameless plug out of the way. Sponsor of this podcast, Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop. They're going to take care of us. It's currently on its way, or well, by the time you hear this episode, hopefully it'll be on its way back.
Hope so.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, today we've got a great episode. They're all great, and we can't say one's better than the other because they're all awesome. Today, we're going to have the Dolphin. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen that car, well, you probably haven't in recent years, but I can tell you this right now, I believe it's coming back. We're going to have the flipper himself, Jeff Maysey, on this episode of the Bent Fender podcast. And, Wes, Jeff, you haven't met him yet.
I have not.
You have never talked to Jeff. We go way back in racing, man. And, close to when I started out in the racing world, back, myself crewing and hanging out in the pits. I don't think I have a memory without Jeff Maysey. You know what I mean, about being at Windy Hollow Speedway. So, that's pretty cool. And I contacted him, and he's one of the people that originally we wanted for this podcast. And we wanted to get on this show and have him tell some stories, and I think he's going to do so. And I think it's going to be really, really good.
Well, each driver that we meet until we start doing repeat episodes are going to be my first experience with these drivers. And right. I'm always excited to meet people, especially the people that have impressed upon you over the years and helped you develop as you are as a driver. Because I think that there's a lot of history, there's a lot of camaraderie. And I know that the majority of these people that I have gotten to meet or I'm going to meet soon probably aren't treating you as a special case. I'm going to bet that they do feel that way about other people that they can help get into the sport as well. So
yeah, and that's important. I kind of think that Jeff, man, the thing about it is Jeff was one of those characters, you know what I mean? Jeff Maysey was one of those guys that, and his brother Chris, always characters at the racetrack. And two different styles both the brothers had, and Chris Hagan. Jeff, I talk about him fondly, man, because at one time, I got to tell you, me and Jeff didn't get along. We did not at all. And, I don't know what changed that, but just all of a sudden, we got to talking one day. And I guess it happened to the racetrack, and then I was able kind of to come through and do a solid for him one night. We won't get into all that. And like I said, it's just some personal business between me and him. But that's really kind of solidified, Pork Chop and Maysey. I'm not saying me and Jeff haven't been rivals over the years. We have, and it's been good. We've never really wrecked each other or anything like that, so it's always been pretty good, hard racing between the two of us, and we raced in the same class for a lot of years. And, from what I hear, he's building a car. I'm going to get back out there in the cruiser class, so hopefully we're going to have some battles like we used to.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you both were young. You were, based on the stories I've heard, you both may have been hot-headed. I mean,
just a little bit.
Maybe. Maybe. So, I think a lot has changed over the years. So, of course, as you grow and mature and some of those things leave and you're not so, apt to jump out of a car and knock somebody's lights out. I think that, those things do change and relationships grow, if you're willing to change it like that,
Well, absolutely, man. And the cool thing about here's another one of those things about this episode. and we talked about this with Shane's episode, is that, you know, me and Jeff started around the same time, especially on dirt. Well, him just a couple years before me, I guess. But, you know, we're around the same episode, or around the same time. And, you know, he's one of those guys who, if you all don't know who Jeff Maysey is, from, you know, seeing him at the racetrack, different place, different things, I encourage you to get to know Jeff, because, you know, we're talking about 15, 20 years ago. And back when racing, and we talk about the good old days, you know, we're going to bring it up again. We're talking about the good old days. And when we were around, you know, we're talking about pits full of cars, 100, and I'm talking 150, 200 cars, was not a uncommon thing back then. You know, huge fields of cars. Every class had 30, 40 cars in it, man. It was awesome. And you know, we don't want to dog on the product now, you know, but you got to think, you know, we're digging out of a hole. And we're digging out of a slump. So, you know, anything we can do to bridge that gap between somebody who's, you know, and I'm going to call Jeff old school, because he is. And he'll call himself old school. He knows. Sure. Because he came from a different time in racing, just like kind of way I started. And, you know, Jeff's grown and done some things over the years, and he's had success. And, you know, he was one of those guys who was able to do it in the old school and kind of do a little bit in the new school too. So, you know, it's pretty cool to see these guys coming back, because, you know, we talk about, you know, guys that raced a long time ago, but they're coming back. Sure. You know, and that's a cool thing, because these guys haven't given up the love of the sport. You know, maybe the things that happened in life, and, you know, I stepped away from the sport 4 or 5 years, you know, building my new job and things like that I started doing, and getting a house and different things. You know, life kind of gets in the way of racing. You know, racing isn't everything. I know it's a shock to some people, you know, but racing isn't everything. You know, when you grow up and you mature and you think about things and you have families to take care of and obligations, you know, sometimes racing takes a backseat. But these guys have never lost the passion for the sport. And it was evident in Shane's episode. It was evident. It's going to be evident, I'm sure, in you know, Jeff's episode. Sure. So, you know, we're trying to get these people on here too. So, you know, anybody out there that doesn't think we're trying, we really are trying. You know, I'm going to contact more people. I'm going to talk to more people. Got some different things in the works. Been talking technically all day today to different people reference the podcast. So, and motorsports in general. So we're working on big things.
Well, and I think,
believe me when I tell you that.
When you talk about these drivers who are, you know, what you call old school, I think that their experience, their trials, their tribulations, it's absolutely invaluable to anyone that's coming up now. And, you know, some of these young drivers who, you know, can learn a tremendous amount from them. And not just drivers, but fans as well, because if you learn what came before, then you can appreciate what's happening now even more, I think. So, you know, whether it's Shane or, you know, with Jeff, or hopefully, you know, we get Bill Moorman and some of the other racers who have been doing this for a long time, we get them in front of a mic. They get to share those experiences and help foster the love for this sport in the new generation even more.
No, absolutely. And, you know, that's what we're going for. Because, you know, part of the point of this show is to get those stories out there and get, you know, old school stuff and different things. Talk about the old days, you know, but talk about the new days too, you know. And that's the thing is we want these kids that are out there, and hopefully, you know, parents, let your kids listen to it. Let them learn about racing. You know, take them to the racetrack. But a lot of it is, you know, we need to get these kids interested.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, and I'm going to ask Jeff about that, what he kind of thinks about it, you know, hot button issue. I think we're going to start adding, I think we're going to add to the state of racing. I think we're going to definitely put social media on every episode these days. Because here's the thing. We're trying to use this for good. We're trying to use social media for good. And again, I've said this before. If you don't think this is social media, you're completely wrong, because this is absolutely social media. You know, it's going on the internet. It's the same as if we were posting on Facebook. It's the same we were doing a video. Same if we post on Instagram, anything like that. It's just audio. So, you know, we're trying to do what we can do to stave off some of the negativity, some of these tracks that are having a hard time with people griping, complaining. Rules have been, guys, I mean, we keep coming back to this. Rules has been a hot button issue, and it really has for these tracks. And, 2 tracks in the last week or 2 weeks have gone through rule debacles.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the bomber class or the cruiser class, this ought to tell us something. We can learn from this. And in no way, shape, or form, can the track owners get it right the first time? I mean, most of the time you can hit on something, but maybe, there's some gray areas, maybe, not 100% thought. You got to cover your bases. Because
Sure.
I'm going to tell you, man, if you leave a loophole in those rules, people are going to exploit it. They're going to do it every time. They've been doing it since there's been cars. They're going to do it from now on to the end of time. So, guys, if you leave loopholes in your rules or you're not clear on what you're saying, people are going to exploit it. It's not cheating. It's using the rules to your advantage. Now, when that crosses into cheating, then, we've got a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you shouldn't do that. Guys, you know better. You're going to get busted. And I think people are getting busted for small, little piddly things these days.
And, whether it's, a driver, challenging another driver and having the car tore down or, having the car teched out, whatever, just I get to the fact that sometimes you bend things a little bit just to err on the side of doing a little better for your car. But, cheating sucks. Cheating hurts everybody involved, and it's just, there's nothing wrong with working the rules for your favor, but just don't cheat. Come on, guys.
Well, I look at it both ways. I've been busted for cheating myself. It was a long time ago. I was wrong, and they called me on it. It did not pass. And I don't know. The thing I look at is, a lot of people don't care. They're like, whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
They don't care. But there's a lot of people that take it to heart. And a lot of people are like, hey, man, if it was on the line and you deem it not right, then okay. Blatantly cheating, I mean, you're cheating before you
Right.
ever go into the situation. So you shouldn't be surprised if you get busted.
Mm-hmm.
But, going back to social media, that kind of stuff, and we're not calling any, we're not talking about any specific situation. We're just talking about in general. People are gonna lambaste you on social media for cheating. They're gonna do it.
Well, social media as a whole has just changed the way that information is shared, and it's not just racing, it's everything. You look at some bad news that happens in California, before the age of social media, you had to wait until either the evening news or you had to wait till the newspaper came out before that news got to you. Now, something bad happens, across the world, and instantaneously,
Oh yeah,
you know about it.
as it unfolds.
So, not only is it that, but because it is so prevalent in our lives, because you walk around with your social media in your pocket every single day, it just makes information that much faster to get to you. And whether that's good news, bad news, bullying, whatever it is, I talk about this all the time with kids. When I was in school and when you were in school, Nathan, if somebody was being bullied in school, that stopped at 3 o'clock until the next day.
Oh yeah.
Unless the kid lived in your neighborhood or whatever.
Right.
So now it doesn't stop. It's constant. And it's the same thing with racing. If there's a positive spin, if there's a positive opinion, those get shared a whole lot less than the negative stuff. So I think that we just have to use the platform that we have to make sure that we're sharing as much good as we can to kind of counterbalance that other negative stuff.
Well, we're doing that, and Windy Hollow Speedway does not sponsor this podcast. Cedar Ridge Speedway does not sponsor this podcast. Kentucky Motor Speedway does not sponsor this podcast. And you know what? While we wish they would, obviously, but I'm not above plugging Windy Hollow Speedway every Friday night or Sunday night, whatever they choose to run. I'm not above plugging Cedar Ridge Speedway every Saturday night. Every Sunday night the KMS runs Kentucky Motor Speedway. I'm not above plugging their product, because here's the thing, guys. You got to get out to these racetracks. You got to do it. And real quick, it's just the same thing as last week we had Tristan Bays on. I want to touch on this real quick. He came on. our first Demolition Derby driver. It was outside the mainstream, what we normally, it started out as it's kind of a circle track deal, and while circle track is absolutely what we love, it's not going to stop there, guys.
Mm-mm.
Trust me. I was on a phone call today for over an hour and a half with a different form of motorsports, and I think we're going to be able to make something happen with that. So, that we're going to get some interviews, and I'm not going to go into it because I haven't nailed down everything, but just know that we're trying. So anyway, it's different things. And, when Tristan came on, he told us a lot about Demolition Derby, and, even Wes and my wife were able to go out to the Derby. I had to work, but they were able to go out to the Derby and support him in his quest for the win and or Mad Dog, whatever he wanted or whatever he's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Did not work out great. Some mechanical failure there, but hey, we're crashing the cars. It is what it is. But the cool thing about it is I was able to support from afar. And I was able to, not toot my own horn, but I will tell you that I sponsored him for 5 gallons of racing fuel for his effort. Wasn't able to do that himself, and I was able to step up and do that for him. So it's a small gesture. It was not a lot, guys. I mean, how much it costs racing fuel is, but it wasn't a huge thing, but it was big to him.
But I can tell you, and also in that same vein or whatever, I can tell you that when he saw us walk into the pits to say hello to him
Before he got kicked out.
Before we got kicked out by the cops, which we did.
Breaking the law.
But we walked into the pits to say hello and see his car, and he absolutely lit up. He was excited to see the fact that we took the time and the interest to come and support him. And, it was great that we could do that. And, he showed us his car, and he was really excited about pointing out all the things that we needed to see about his car. And it was cool to be there for him and to cheer him on. And I think that our interaction with him and his with us during the Derby, it just goes to show that fans matter.
They do matter.
Knowing that as a driver, and I've never driven a car, but I could see in his face that knowing he had,
here?
Well,
never mind. No, I'm fine.
You totally threw me off. I'm trying.
No, you've never driven a car, but
no, I've never driven a car, but I could absolutely see that because we were there, it energized him and it made him feel good about what he was going to do, and to know that when you're dealing with a large group of fans that are cheering you on, whether it be drag race, circle track, whatever, it just has to feel pretty amazing. So.
Oh, absolutely, and and that's the cool thing about it is he stayed in constant touch with me. Whenever I was able to text him and different things that while he was getting ready to go out and run the Derby and all that. So he stayed in constant contact with me, and I was trying to pump him up the best I could. Again, I couldn't be there, but I was there in spirit, and we wanted to support him because he came on the podcast and he gave up his time, and that's not he did something for us, so we're going to support him. No, we would support him either way.
Right.
And, just like we support all you guys and all you ladies that want to listen to this episode, or not just this one, but all of them, and listen to the podcast because, we want to support you. We want to support your sponsors. We want to support your car, your racing effort. That's what we're about.
Right.
We're absolutely about that. Do we have our own stuff? Yes, we do. And we're going to support that too. And I'm going to start right now because sponsors that make it happen for us, rolling into that, I know that was a good transition.
It was fantastic.
I don't know. But anyway, sponsors that help us out, Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts. Go see John Hayden and those folks down there on 2nd Street. Fairview IT Management, Gabriel Kirkley and his gang. Keep your computers and any IT issues that you have, they can probably solve them. They solved a problem for Wes this week, and fairly short order. Was a good deal.
Pretty happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin's Towing and Recovery, a longtime friend of the podcast, Chad's Barbershop right here in Whitesville, Kentucky, Glenstone Construction, and Slingshot Media Group. Go see Kevin Russell. They can get your business, what have you. We saw our ad this week for the podcast.
We did.
As a matter of fact, on their TVs, all kinds of different locations. 14 screens, 17 locations, or vice versa.
I think that's right.
That's right. With more to come. I've talked to Kevin in the last week or so, and they are adding more they can do for your business, just like they can do for us. So give those guys a call. And, speaking of that, if you want something designed for your business, give Red Star Graphics a call. They can help you out by making ads, business cards, what have you. We can make racing shirts to a point.
To a point, yeah.
Yeah, and make it look cool. So,
but for the racing shirts that we can't, help out with, we do have another sponsor that can.
Absolutely, High Octane Racewear and Graphics. Go see Josh Tyler. Made our race car look awesome. Look good. Call today, look good tomorrow. That's their motto.
Yep.
So go see them and give them a call. Well, give him a call while you're there, while you're seeing him. I don't know. He might answer his phone and talk to you on the phone while you're talking to him. I don't know. If you want to find the podcast, you can find us all the time. iTunes for the Apple folks, Google Play for the Android folks, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn. What else? YouTube?
YouTube, yeah.
Awesome.
Facebook, website.
Yeah, Facebook, Conway Racing Team, Twitter, @Conway Race Team, Instagram, Conway Racing. As always, website is www.conwayracingteam.com. Currently under construction.
We have made some updates. There are some changes. There's some new pictures in the gallery section of the car this year. We've freshened some things up, still working on it, thanks to the changes or the fixes to my laptop this week, so we're good to go.
And as always, a good friend of the podcast, go support Blake Smith and his show, Regional Motorsports Power Hour, every Monday night at Maloney's in Owensboro. Kicks off 7 o'clock with the prayer by Rusty Allison, and right after that, immediately following the national anthem, just like we would do at the racetrack every week. So like I said, 7 to 8:30 every Monday night at Maloney's. You can get 25% off any specialty pizza while you're there. You can find them at 102.7 ESPN The Game and 94.7 WBIO. I think we've covered it. We did well. We go ahead and mention Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop, another podcast sponsor. I know we mentioned them earlier, but we want to thank them again. Now, we have rambled way too friggin' long this time, but that's okay. We were talking some things, so
let's get in the truck.
Yeah, we need to get in the truck. We need to. It's Field Trip Friday. We're going to the Jeff Maysey garage, and we're going to have a great conversation with him. I just know it. So when we come back after the break, we'll have driven some miles, and we're going to bring you some stories. So we'll see you then.
Let's face it, we love racing and we need to keep those race machines in tip-top shape to stay competitive. That's why we rely on Mach 5 Race Cars and Parts. Located at 2035 West 2nd Street in Owensboro, Kentucky. They specialize in stock cars, but you'll find all the parts you need for your racing go-karts as well. They are your go-to experts for parts, wheels, tires, fuel, and a wide array of other items to keep you on the track. They have hundreds of parts in stock and can special order thousands of others. Give John Hayden a call today at 270-240-5587.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back on the Ben Fender podcast, and I told you it was going to be a great episode today. We're sitting down with the flipper himself, Jeff Maysey. Jeff, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on, buddy, and talking with us.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. And, we got to talking before we got to recording, and, you've had a long career, kind of got out of it for a little bit, but going to get back into it here fairly quickly. And we'll set the scene for everybody. We're down here in Jeff's garage. It's another Field Trip Friday, as we like to call it here. But we're down in Jeff's garage, and I'm looking at 3 race cars, one of which his brother's working on right now, and we're taking Jeff's time. But Jeff, take me back to the beginning, man. How did it all start? Did you just get taken to the racetrack by somebody, or?
Yeah. Well, my dad. I'm a second-generation driver. My dad raced way back in the day, right. And so of course I was going to do it, and I think he started racing. It was back in the 60s, 70s, maybe, like way back.
Right.
He's raced some at Ellis and Whitesville course, and a bunch of the local tracks. So,
well, talk about who your dad was. With people that may not know, just tell us who your dad was.
Everybody knows me. They probably know my dad. My dad was Daryl Maysey. He was known as a local sign painter.
Right.
So he lettered a whole bunch of race cars, and as another driver, kid, we all kind of back in the day took care of each other,
Yeah.
So, I was well accepted, and it makes racing for me now a whole lot easier,
right.
Knowing everybody, and most people knew me, since I was 3 or 4 years old, so it makes it a lot easier on me.
Well, we know that, you and your brother have been involved in racing for a long time, and you talk about your dad. I want to take it back. I don't know if you ever were able to. It may have been before your time. I know it definitely was mine. But Ellis, you mentioned Ellis Speedway, and how big Ellis Speedway was to this community. I mean, this is prior to Kentucky Motor Speedway and right at the start of that. But, your dad found success there, right?
I'm not going to say that, but we'll say he got the race there. But, he just loved the sport, and you know, he just loved racing. But
Right.
he said he wasn't real successful, you know, but until I started racing, I guess. But
Well, you know, a lot of people garner success or classify success differently.
yeah,
You know, because it's different for everybody. But,
Yeah.
But you know, you talk about him getting in with you. You know, did he help you a lot? You know, when you first started, or
yeah.
how'd you transition into start working?
well,
you know,
well actually, you know, Nick Estes,
right?
him and my dad are, you know, pretty close. They're like the Estes family. They're like family to us. So Nick actually furnished my first race car, and you know, John Chown furnished the roll cage. Ricky Estes let us build the car in his shop over there.
Right.
So you know, it was just kind of everybody pitched in a hand and got me racing. So
Well, now, you know, your career basically started on asphalt. You kind of in the footsteps of your father.
Yeah.
At Kentucky Motor Speedway.
yeah,
So a lot of history there. I remember you racing there, and you know, when we talked to Jake, you know, John Chown was a big part of racing there as well. So
yes, he was. Yep.
so tell us about. I guess did you start helping your dad, or did you start helping other people, or the Estes, or how did it start?
I was always, you know, my dad was going to let her race car, you know, I was there. If he was working on the race car, I was there. I was always in the shop. I was always, you know, working on the race car. About like, you know, my oldest boy now.
Right.
If I'm down at the shop, then he's down here with us. It's, you know, or sometimes he comes down here and I'm not even motivated to come down here. He comes down here and works on my car, you know, by himself. So.
Well, that's a good way to learn, and
Yeah.
and we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. So you transition into you're building your first car. Tell us about that experience. I guess being able to build that first race car.
Well, my first race car, I believe I was 14 years old. You know, was working on it. My dad would take me and my best friend, Tandy, over across the bridge over to Ricky's every day.
Right.
And work on it every afternoon. We'd get out of school and, you know, that's what we done. We went and worked on the race car. So, you know, I learned how to weld when I was, you know, probably 9, 10 years old. And Dad taught me that. And he had me, which now, you know, I think he was using me for child labor, but I was gutting cars,
No.
you know, at 6, 7 years old. So it's, you know, I love it. I love it. I don't know anything else really, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, and you know what though, I don't see that as a problem. I really don't, because I think that's a good thing. That you know, so much of your life has been devoted to racing, especially you know with your father, and you got to do that, and got to hang out with him and learn, you know, a lot of the tricks and the different things that he was able to do.
Yeah, he's back in the day, I guess he was a pretty good cheater back in the day. You know,
No.
you couldn't go out and buy stuff back then. You know, they had to build their own stuff, and that's the way I learned. You know, heating springs, you know, putting blocks in springs, just a bunch of little stuff that we learned, but it was pretty cool. Cool experience.
Well, that's the old school way of racing, and you know, racing innovation. When you think about it as a whole, racing innovation only comes out of stuff like that, and that's the only reason why we have racing springs today and racing shocks and different things that you put on these cars. You know, is because of those guys who were able to do that.
Yeah, they learned a lot experimenting.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that kind of to me drives the sport.
Yeah,
You know.
yes, it does.
So you take off in your first car. Tell us about that first year. You're racing at Whitesville, right? You remember what year this is going to be, or
It's 99.
1999?
Yep.
So that's a little bit right at about the time I started going to the racetrack, back to the racetracks, and of course I was going onto the dirt.
Yeah.
But you were kind of hanging out on the asphalt. But tell us about that first season.
The first season we had a lot of success. I won my first heat race. I think third week out. You know, we won our first heat, and then the fifth week we ended up getting a feature win. So I think I won 3 or 4 features that year, and I don't know, 9 or 10 heat races. Guy named Sam Estes.
Sam Estes.
Yeah, Chase Estes' dad. He came out and started putting the butt whooping on us pretty bad, but I remember the first time I actually beat him, you know, it was like, hell, I thought I beat Cal Bush or somebody, you know, it was a pretty cool deal, but I like racing against people that, you know, has been around it and has got a lot of seat time, because I think it made me a better driver racing against people to that caliber, so it helped me out.
You hear that a lot, and that's one of those things where, you know, you can't be intimidated by those guys, because you know, you can look at it one of two ways. You can either be intimidated by the guy and you're going to beat yourself every time,
Yeah.
or you can learn from that guy
And
and you're going to eventually be able to beat that guy.
Exactly. You know me, I'm pretty hard to intimidate anyway, but
Yep.
so but you know, I wasn't intimidated, and actually Sam, he was real good. You know, he'd come over and, you know, give me tips and stuff, and you know, he'd be like, pretty much follow me and I'll take you to the front. That's what he told me, but and it was true, but it was cool. It's nice learning.
So you found, you know, relatively good success. You just said 3 to 4 features, I guess, in that first year.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, you know, they can't say that. I can't say that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool to know that you know, you can get in there and mix it up. Because I mean, you know, tell us about some of the guys that were racing then, and I guarantee you people are going to know who they are.
Yeah. We ran at least top 2 or 3 in the top 4 every week, but we ran against, like I said, Sam Estes, he was fast. Ricky Duval, he had a pretty fast car. Ricky White, Jason White's dad, he was pretty fast back then.
We know what Jason can do in a race car.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of them older guys, man, they helped me out, and I enjoyed racing against them.
And that was crazy because, you know, this is a time too when they're getting ready to transition to like their kids starting to race.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of those guys did find success. So now, how long did you stay on the asphalt?
We ran, it was Thunderstock back then. We was there 2 years, and then we started experimenting on dirt a little bit. And Windy Hall had a rain out one night, and I was like, I had my car out there, you know, we was gonna run, and we was playing on the track afterwards, and I let a bolt slip down in my carburetor. My engine man did not like it too much.
No.
We ended up tearing up a motor, so I had to sit out a little while. But that was a experiment. That's when me and Dwayne Richardson was pretty good friends,
right.
You know, back in the day. And yeah, we was hell on wheels back then. But
I remember those days.
yeah.
So now you were just kind of playing around on the dirt at the time. Now, what made you get serious and think about really transitioning over to dirt?
Well, you know, I built my own dirt car. I believe it was 2002, and you know, we ran pretty decent, and I ended up getting a ride offer. I was over Kink's house.
Right.
Anybody that's around racing knows Kink, but I was over his house one night, just hanging out in the shop like we all used to do when we was kids, and he offered me a ride in 2006 or 2007, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I went and drove for him, and we had a lot of success. We won a whole bunch of races. So
yeah.
And that's when I went to dirt.
Well, Steve Bowman is,
Yep.
you know, Kink as he's known. Steve is no stranger to racing, and you know, used to race himself. Built countless cages and cars, you know, over the years, and especially for several different guys.
Yes.
You and your brother included.
Yeah.
You know, tell us. I guess we go ahead and just broach that right now. Let's talk about Steve for a minute, and let's tell me what Steve means to you, man.
Well, you know, he's pretty much like a father figure to me. You know, he still to this day do anything in the world for me. You know, he treated me like his own son. So, like I said, I drove for him for 6, 7, 8 years, and
Yep.
you know, and they're building another Thunderstock car, and I'm probably gonna drive it a little bit. And
is that you heard it here first, or what?
I mean, yeah, it's still in the works. We're gonna do maybe some figure eighting with it, but
nothing wrong with that.
you know, my brother drives for him now currently, and so he just, like I said, he's like a father figure to us.
Great,
he does
great
a whole lot
looking
for
car,
both of us.
you know.
Oh
And
yeah,
all of his cars have always looked, you know, really, really cool, and all your cars. I know you've been, you know, huge into the neon.
yeah.
For about as long as I can remember.
Flashy.
But yeah, it is flashy. But there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Bling bling.
Listen now. Yeah, you got that hanging around the neck
It's
right now.
all
I
right.
see it. But you working with Kink, you know, you guys did a lot of winning, and not just roundy round. You know, we call it circle track racing. You guys, what made you come out and start running figure eight? Now, you know, they ran figure eight at Windy Hollow for several years.
Yes.
And what got you into figure eight racing?
Well, honestly, my first experience with figure eight racing, I drove for Stick. They call him Stick, Wayne Smith. You know, I ran around with them for a little while, and his boy was driving for him, and he didn't want to run the figure eight. And I was like, well, hell, you know, let me drive it. So
Wow.
my first figure eight race that I ever ran at Windy Hollow, we ended up winning. think it was 800 or 1,000 to win, and I ended up winning it, and I was hooked, after that. So it's a rush. It's fun.
Well, and as somebody who's run figure eight as well, I think I've been in a couple races with you, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But you talk about the people that used to run that, and one guy, in particular that we've got to talk about, and we talked about him a few minutes ago, Junior Horn.
Yeah.
Junior Horn was big into the figure eight.
Yes, he was.
Won several times.
Yeah.
Got mad more than that.
Yeah.
And especially, I remember that for sure for me. But talk to us about Junior and what he I know we've lost him now, but let's talk about Junior for a second.
Junior, me and Junior was, a lot of people don't know, we was pretty close. We had our incidents on the track a few times, but we was always, like I said, my dad used to letter his cars, so he's another one that known me since I was 3 or 4 years old. And as I got older, me and him, we developed a pretty close relationship. He'd call me at least once a week, check on me, just, hey, how you doing? Even if we got into it that week at the track, he'd still call me. Well, and, like I said, he meant a lot to me.
Yeah. And, it's sad that we lost Junior and just suddenly, as how it happened, and didn't really get to say goodbye to him like we should have. But, we got to think about the positives, and we got to think about, the legacy that Junior left on this sport and what he meant to a lot of people. I know personally, we talked about this earlier, but before we got on the air, I remember a figure eight race out there one night I was watching, and we wish him, we talk about Donnie Fair, and we wish him well and speedy recovery for him.
Yes.
But we, I was thinking about it, you guys were in a hot battle. I mean, y'all three of you. Yeah. And you and Donnie, you came down the last lap, and I don't know what happened. Y'all was all over each other, man. Yeah. And tell us what happened after that.
I think it was more of he was all over me, but that's my opinion. My side of it. We all got our own side of it. Yeah. Thing about that, Donnie had run over me about 2 weeks in a row prior to that, and my brother told me that night, if he runs over you, then you might as well take care of it tonight. So that's that deal was. He ended up running over me, and we kind of had a little disagreement on the front straightaway, and but Donnie, he was at he brought me a roof for my Salem car. Actually, it's over with now, and we cut up and laugh about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Well, what was funny was whenever you jumped out. Now, by standards, you're not a real big guy. You know what I mean? And you picked one of the biggest dudes at Windy Hollow in Junior Horn, and he comes over to try to calm you down. I see you shove him backwards. Everybody's like, "Oh!" in the stands,
Yeah.
But you know what? He never lost his smile.
No,
he thought it was great, and he knew you were mad.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of guy
he was. And I apologized to Junior after that, but it's just when I'm in the heat of the moment, it's kind of like leave me alone. I think I was trying to jerk Donnie out of the car at the time or something. I don't know, but
well, I remember one night. I tell this story because I don't know. We were in a race. I don't think you raced that night, but I think it was over Dwayne Richardson, and I had gotten in his way or did some. I don't know. This was one of my first year running cruiser, and you hadn't raced that night, or you had gone out early, and this was the feature. You come over into my window, and bud, you was yelling and hollering, and I was like, "What? Why, man?" And that I guess that was kind of started us on the path. It wasn't very much longer after that. You and me kind of buried that beef, and and we've got along ever since.
I think I was telling you good job, and you just took it wrong or something.
Maybe.
That's probably what it was.
Well, you had a hold of my helmet, so I don't know what was going on there. But
you was sidetracked. You wasn't listening to me.
Yeah, I was. I didn't listen a lot back then. So you transitioned. So what made you? You just got the rush, I guess, for figure eight. Didn't you run circle track still?
Yeah. I still ran circle track. We started doing getting back into asphalt stuff with the Salem deal, and we ran the Kimmel Series a little bit.
Right.
We've been to Sparta, we've been to Bristol, and some of them other tracks. But
well, tell us about you running the Kimmel Series. For a lot of people that don't remember, Frank Kimmel started his own street stock series. It was like 5 races, I guess, the first year, 6 races, something like that. Yeah. But you were able to build a car And I remember, I didn't get to witness it myself, but you guys went up to Sparta, ran on the big track, 1.5 miles of Kentucky Speedway, and ran at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yeah, we Bristol, that's a sore subject. We spent a bunch of money going down there, and our car didn't quite go through tech. So, but we're gonna try to do that deal next year with the U.S. Short Track Nationals. We're gonna try to make it down there with our new Salem car. But Sparta, yeah, we got to go and we ran. Didn't have much success down there, but we was probably way out of our league. But it's a neat experience that I got to go down and run on the 1.5 miles, and it was, I tell you, it was a really good time. It brought a lot of me and my crew members together,
Yeah.
and just to experience that.
Well, the cool thing about it is, what I take away is you were able to come from 3 hours away in Owensboro, Kentucky, and you guys brought a car home built.
Yeah.
And these, and you're running against guys who jig built.
Oh, NASCAR shops. Yeah, there's
unlimited money in these motors and things.
Yeah.
And you guys were able to go up there as a team of just, the way I look at it, just a bunch of good old boys from Owensboro,
Yeah.
and come up there and gain that experience and have a great time.
Yep.
And run that race.
Yeah, we did. And like I said, I thank Kink all the time. He gave me that opportunity to go do that stuff. It was like he had faith in me enough to where I could go run them races. Just like first time I went to Salem was 2005.
Right.
And it wasn't 2 years later. I was like, man, I got to race up here. I got to race up here. And it wasn't 2 years later. He was building me a car where I could go do that. So, like I said, I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me and my career and stuff. So it's
well, and that again, we circle back to Steve and how much he's done for you, and for Dwayne, he's done for your brother. He's pretty selfless. You got to get to know Kink.
Yeah.
You do,
Yeah.
and I'm not on the inside, near anywhere close to what you are.
Right.
So the real Steve Bowman.
Yeah.
But of course, I've talked to him several times, but he's always willing to help out, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does. And there's been a whole lot of really good race car drivers that's drove for Kink that a lot of people probably don't know. John Hayden, he used to drive for Kink. Chris Odds drove for him.
Right.
Dwayne. There's not too many people that probably hadn't drove Kink's car a time or two.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and even he dabbled into the modifieds at one time.
Yeah.
So he's been in about everything from thunder stock to street stock to modified to El Camino.
Yeah. Oh, El Camino. That's a sore subject.
I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring it up. So now, did you just put your dirt track stuff on hold when you guys wanted to focus full, on that Kimmel series? Did you have a plan that what you wanted to accomplish, or?
No, actually, when we was running the Kimmel series, we still had our dirt car, and we was winning a lot of races, so that we was winning enough then where that dirt car kind of paid for that asphalt car. So
that's important.
Yeah. But
well, that's pretty cool, man. That you were able to do that. I hated that you had bad luck at Bristol because you think about, what the U.S. Short Track Nationals are now in its second year. And it's huge.
Oh, yeah, it's really big.
And Owensboro typically has a pretty good showing up there.
Yes, they do.
So, we want to see you back in something like that. Yeah. And it sounds like you've got plans to do that.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to try to go next year, which more than likely we're going. I'm going to try to make that deal work. But, like you said, Brett Hudson does really good up there. Blake's pretty fast. So them two guys are fast everywhere they go.
Oh, yeah.
So.
We're talking about Blake Hillard, and he's coming on and having a great career himself. Rivaling Brett Hudson. So now, what led you to Salem Speedway? Talk about the high banks.
That place is awesome. I've been on quite a few racetracks, and that's my favorite racetrack. There's nothing else like it. It's awesome.
It is pretty cool, and a lot of people who aren't able to go to Bristol Motor Speedway can very well just drive up to Salem Speedway about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Owensboro and experience some of the racing that you would see at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and like I said, my thing about Salem, it's I consider it as a driver's track. Like, you're up on top of the wheel of that race car the whole time. Like, there's no time for relaxation. You're driving that thing the whole time.
Well,
And,
it seems like a
neat.
tough racetrack.
It is. It really is, but it's fun because you're going so fast, and if you mess up, that it's not going to be good.
No.
So up there,
And the hits are harder.
we brought several cars home from the Halloween and the firecracker race that we had to kind of cut apart just to get it in the trailer.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, so now, correct me if I'm wrong. When was the last time you were able to run on dirt?
The last time we ran on dirt was I drove Chase Estes' car. Two years ago maybe for the I believe it was a memorial race that I drove. Yeah, Chase's car. And we didn't have a very good night at all. We fought that thing. Chase told me before I got in it that it was kind of ill handling, and he wasn't lying. But I appreciate them guys, Nick and Sam and Chase, give me the experience, to come out there and run. I showed up at the racetrack and drove. So, them guys took care of everything, and I appreciate them letting me do that.
Well, I mean, again, we harken back to what you said, near the first of the show there, is that, the Estes family and your family have been so ingrained, together.
Yeah.
And it's cool how it's still working out that way today.
Yeah, it is. Justin Estes, he was a race car driver too.
Absolutely.
I used to stay the night at his house all the time over there and get butt chewings from Ricky from us doing stupid stuff. So
No, not Ricky.
Yeah.
One heck of a driver in his own right. I mean, you think about, the drivers that's come out of the Estes family and how much success that they've had. That's pretty cool too. So.
Something that's kind of funny? Every time Ricky and Chase race against each other, they always get into each other. So that's something that you might want to interview one of them and talk about. Bring that up. That's some good stories.
Well, we're definitely, we've been working on getting Chase on the episodes, and I'm definitely going to ask him about it.
Yeah, that's a good question
I
to
want to
bring
hear
up.
about that.
Yeah.
Well, so now, where do we go from here? We're looking at these three chassis over here, and we talked about, you got one car sitting out. Well, it's actually technically raining right now, but you got one car sitting out there. I know you want to talk about your three cars, but one car sitting outside is going to be very special to you.
Yeah, it is. We're building my boy car. He's going to be a third-generation driver. We're going to wing him into it, and I've kind of had the hot head, so I'm going to have to work on letting myself off so I can go to the racetrack and enjoy it with him. But we're by the end of the season we're going to have him in something. But I'm going to take my time this winter and build him a real nice car for next year, and get him into it, and hopefully. Told him if you're half as good as your daddy was, then you'll be a pretty good race car driver.
You do all right.
He always says he's going to be better than me, but we'll see. If he takes off pretty good, then I might have me a Salem car or something around, or maybe in a vintage car to keep around. But I'm going to pretty much hang it up and let him take off and do it, and we'll see what he can do.
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a big thing for a father to be able to pass that on down to his son. And it's pretty cool for a son to be like, I want to be like Dad, but I want to be better than Dad.
Yeah.
And if he's got that fire and he's got that will, there ain't nothing holding him back.
Hopefully not, but I doubt he's better than Dad, but we'll see.
Well, what we're going to have to do, the only thing that's going to solve that is getting you and him in the same race.
I reckon.
No.
I don't think I won't.
Well, absolutely. I mean, actually, that's a sound thing because I'd probably wreck it. I can't too.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't come by it easy.
He won't beat me.
I didn't come by it easy. You didn't go by it easy. So, I want to ask you this. You think about all your years in motorsports and different things that you've done. Has stock car racing always been your favorite form of motorsports?
Oh yeah, it's my life. I mean, it's all, like I said, it's all I've known. I've thought about getting out of it, and I'm like, what else would I do? I don't know anything else really, and it's the truth. It's all I've ever been around. It's what I've been raised around, and it's pretty much it. So.
Well, and that's cool because a lot of people will absolutely they're like, oh, I played baseball for 20 years, but man, I love football. I wish I'd have played football, but oh well.
Yeah.
But the stock car racing is your passion, and now your kids see that, and they're wanting, and you don't even have to prompt them. because they're jumping in.
Yeah. Well, one of them is. My other two boys, they're in the other sports, which is going to be a whole lot cheaper on me, so it's fine. But,
Yeah, buying cleats is way cheaper than buying tires.
Oh,
you
I
know
guarantee
what I mean?
it.
So, I want you to think back again on your time in racing. And this starts out from the start, and it could be anything that you've ever seen. But tell me about some of your favorite drivers, and that can be anybody, why you loved them, why you love to hate them, anything, you know what I mean?
Okay, well, Ricky Rudd, you know, of course.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite drivers. Ricky Estes, as you know, he's another one of my favorite drivers. You know, kid my age, Bo Mitchell. He's he's a wheelman.
He is.
And John Hayden, it's another one of my. He does some stuff with the car that, man, it's just, I'm like, man, it's wicked. So, Gene Mitchell, you know,
Absolutely.
and when we started doing that Salem deal, Gene helped us out quite a bit. So,
Well, you know, another guy that we've lost, we lost way too early, and I can remember, growing up around the Mitchells, and again, we played baseball, and that's what we did, and Gene was always into racing, but, Bo didn't get into it till later, but you're absolutely right. Both the Mitchells, father and son both could drive.
yeah, oh yeah,
And it's sad not to have them around, and you're right, Bo is a wheelman.
yeah,
But it makes it hard. I guess after he lost Gene
Yeah,
to
they was
be
really
able to come
close.
out, and come back out and race again.
yeah, it was really close.
Well, Jeff, I guess this can bring us to the first break. We'll go ahead and back out of here. We got to pay some bills, man.
Okay,
you get
let's
it. You
pay
know
some
what we're
bills.
saying.
Yeah.
But we're going to throw it to some commercials, and we'll be right back with Jeff Maysey.
Are you looking for a hometown barbershop specializing in the best haircuts in Western Kentucky? Master Barber Chad Thompson has everything you need to keep you looking sharp for not only your special occasions, but for every day as well. Offering a line of haircut products to take care of your hair between cuts. Walk-ins are welcome, and you're always going to find friends and neighbors at Chad's. You can find Chad at 10655 Highway 764 in Whitesville, Kentucky, or you can give him a call at 270-903-8183.
And we're back from the break, and still in the Maysey garage. Sitting here with Jeff Maysey. Jeff, I want to talk about something that is important to a lot of drivers. I know as drivers, a lot of us are superstitious and different things, but talk about some of your race day rituals, man. Stuff that you just got to do before you go to the racetrack. It's quirks to you. It's stuff you got to do or got to wear, whatever.
The only thing I've really ever had to wear, I had a special pair of underwear one time, but hell, I think I might have left them somewhere. But no, I really don't have many race day rituals because most of the time we're working on the car. We're behind, and we're working on the car right up until the time it comes to go to the racetrack. So, I mean, I can't really say I have really a race day ritual, but that might be something I might look into.
Well, you never know, and your son might end up with something, and the lucky T-shirt dad wore, and then now I'd pass it down to him,
Yeah.
So. Man, we've talked about a couple of things, and we've told a couple of little stories, but think back on your time with the Esteses, with Kink, and your dad, and stuff like that. Is there any stories that stand out? Just anything funny, anything crazy, amazing that's happened?
I mean, I guess there's something I can admit to now.
You can, yeah.
We
Statute of limitations.
Yeah, we won a Thunderstock feature at Whitesville, and actually Sam Estes was in that race also, and they said we're going to look at right front springs. I was like, oh Lord, we had a adjustable spring bucket in there, which you couldn't run them at the time, so we pulled the spring apart or whatever, and Sam Estes actually got underneath there and held the spring bucket in there while the tech man looked at our spring. Our spring passed, but the bucket wasn't, so tech man turned his back, and we took the adjustable spring bucket and hid it in the trailer, and so we put the car back together, and the right front setting, it's setting over on the right front way down, and we load the car up, but we got away with that one. So
Was that a feature win?
yeah, it was.
Oh man.
So
Well, hey, you took home the money. It didn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And racers will do anything to get an edge over on the tech man or on another racer, and that's just a prime example.
Yeah, that's one of them. Another one, my first feature win at Whitesville, actually, we ended up getting DQ'd, but pretty good stories about old Curtis Stallings. All the guys used to help me out, but they wanted the trophy back. We didn't have the trophy hid in the trailer. We knew we was getting DQ'd, I think, and hid the trophy in the trailer. They said, well, he can't come back if we don't get that trophy back. So Curtis decides he's going to take that trophy and break it and then hand it back to him. So that was a pretty good story also. But, here I am, 14, 15 years old, like, oh. But it's something to laugh about now.
Well, no stranger to stuff going on around the racetrack than Curtis Stallings, for sure, as a character in his own right. And, well, think about, some of the nights that you spent in Kink's garage. And now, it's a family show. Now, listen, it's a family. Yeah. But just think about some of the fun stuff that y'all did and some of the fun things stories that stand out.
Yeah, family show. So there's
to a point.
There's a lot of stuff that went on in Kink's garage that we definitely can't discuss on here. But we've had a lot of good times. We threw some pretty cool birthday parties, and there's been times we get everybody together. One time we threw Kink a big birthday party, and there was all kind of people showed up. Like John Hayden, Barry, and Stephanie Snyder,
right.
And Josh Evans. He helps out quite a bit, and just you wouldn't believe the people that came over there and grilled out. And, it's just like big family.
Right. When I know you used to post pictures, especially whenever you were working in the garage a lot, and you guys would post several pictures to where you were outside grilling, and then there was a whole garage full of people, and just different things going on.
Yeah, that's how it ended up being the Action Jackson gang. It's pretty wild. It gets pretty wild over there, especially in the summertime when it gets hot. Everybody starts getting out. You never know what you'll see.
I have been down the street from there, and I got a car painted down the street one time, and man, I could hear that race car cranking up from down there. And I even stopped by a couple times and talked with Kink and saw his garage. So that was pretty cool too. That he was just so welcoming to say, "Hey, come on in and talk."
Yeah, and that's the way he is. There's another experience we had. We was getting ready to go to Sparta actually, and we bought these radios, and we decided that we're going to drive a race car around the block, test them out. There's an old guy lived down the street. He didn't think it was a good idea, so I pull back up and I look in the mirror, and Kink and his old guy's sitting there nose to nose. My buddy Timmy Thurber, which anybody that knows Thurber, he's a wild one.
Yeah.
He comes and smacks this dude's cell phone out of his hand, and it was a big old mess. Yeah, but it was a pretty good story, though.
So you guys, cruising around the neighborhood, and we're talking about right down there on Jackson Street.
Yeah.
Just cruising around the neighborhood in an asphalt street stock.
I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of laps made around Jackson Street, and it still goes on.
It does. And the sad part about it is Kink kind of fell into some ill health there, and he's come back from some of that, which was good that we didn't lose him. But that's pretty cool how you guys, just bond together, and especially, when he does get down like that, you guys are all still there for him.
Oh yeah, definitely, always will be.
So you talk about the Action Jackson gang, and it's something we see on your brother's car right now. It's definitely right on the bottom of the door, Action Jackson. And tell us how some of that came to be.
Well, that started mainly at a deal out Whitesville. We had a little incident with the Paynes, which I consider the bygone now, but I'm not sure they do. But we had a little incident with them one night, and they wrecked me, so I felt like that my throttle would stick, and kind of got back into them a little bit. But that deal happened, and so they started calling us the Action Jackson gang after that. But we had throttle issues out there anyway, so he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when it happened.
Is that what it was?
That's
what it was. Throttles do stick. A lot of times it happens, and it's fairly common when a guy has his foot, on the floor. They tend to stick, and I don't know if you're a victim of that. It could have just been a rock. I don't know where you'd find a rock at asphalt track, but It happens.
My foot, I think, was off the gas at the time, but I'm not really for sure. I might have had a brain fart or something getting into one there.
Your left foot was off the gas. Now you're right. I don't know. I wasn't in the car with you, so I can't speak to it.
I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and like I said, it might have slipped or something. I don't know.
Well, I want to ask you about this, and you know what? I've never asked this story, and I was actually thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I got to ask Jeff this. We were racing in Windy Hollow one night, and we were racing Windy Hollow. It was a cruiser feature. Well, it was a cruiser heat race. A bunch of us start the race. You end up spinning on the start of the race off of turn number 2. End up out off the back straightaway, and we're riding around. And you were mad at me for some reason, and I don't think I got it, but I may have. But you're mad at me for some reason, so you motor on back to the pits. You didn't run. I think you got a flat tire. Of course, most people just pull off in the heat. You don't come back from a flat tire. So come feature time, I finished the heat race. Come feature time, you start 3 rows in front of me, and didn't even run the heat race. I'm like, did you go slip somebody a dollar bill somewhere, or what happened?
I might have been slipping somebody something back in them days. I was kind of wild, so there's no telling what I was slipping people.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I thought it was crazy. I was like, how in the world does Jeff start 3 rows in front of us and didn't even run the heat race?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, back then, though, we want to talk about, and I'd like you to talk about that for a minute, is, what we call the good old days. And, I kind of feel like we're kind of on the same page a little bit of being links to back when racing was really, really big around here and to what it is now.
Yeah, it's definitely fallen off. Honestly, I believe it's starting to pick back up. It really is, but car count, it's down everywhere. And, just people just don't go as much. Just honestly, people don't help each other as much either, as in the shops and stuff, and just like it used to be, which.
Well, we'll get to that here in just a second when we get to the state of racing. But I'm talking about, tell me, I know what it was like, and I can describe my version of it. But tell them what it was like. We're talking, late '90s, early 2000s when we started. When you started back on dirt, and how big car counts we had, and things like how much fun was it to race when we had pits full of cars? I mean, they were parking them out on Wayne Bridge Road.
Yeah, there was. It was definitely a lot funner back then, And the thing about it, you'd race, you'd get into it with somebody back then. A week, y'all was over it.
Yeah.
The next week, usually y'all was over it. Not unless you felt like you had to get somebody back, then that was always my problem. But, after I got them back, I was over it. Nowadays, it's like you get into it with people, and it's got to go on, it's got to go on, it's got to go on. And I think that's part of the problem with racing now. But
well, one thing I want to get into before we broach that is, we talk about your son getting into racing, and you've got a plan for that. But we talk about your son getting into racing, but just think about the little kids that come to the racetrack these days. And I know we were a wild bunch back then too, and people are not going to bring their kids, a bunch of cussing, fighting fest. But when you talk about these kids, what advice would you give? And you've learned hard ways about some things, but you've learned, you've had some breaks too. And but what advice would you give these kids these days coming into this sport to make them successful, to get them in, number one, and to make them successful for the long run?
Well, I mean, coming from my personal experiences, you need to think before you react. That's something that I had a problem with. Of course, everybody knows that. My boy, he might just be a little wilder than I was, but we're working on that. But he's a good kid. But he just that would be my advice. That's something that I needed to work on. I wish I would have done things a little different sometimes.
Yeah. Not
saying that I won't get hot-headed again, because I'm sure it's going to happen, but just think before you react, because there's people out there watching, and and some of these sponsors and stuff, they look at that.
Absolutely.
I had missed out on Texas Roadhouse sponsor because of my attitude back in the day. And, the guy sat me down and talked to me. It's like, hey, I can't have you running around acting like that. My name's on there.
Right.
It's Roadhouse Corporate, and we can't do that. So, that's just something to think about to some of these younger guys.
Well, it's pretty cool that, we can sit down, here we are almost 20 years later. When you think about it that way, I put that in perspective with Shane a couple of weeks ago, and we're 20 years later than we used to be. You know what I mean? We're 20 years older now, and we were just kids back then, and trying to run race cars, and probably not mature enough to do anything anyway. But we'll talk about on that vein of the advice. Talk about what's given you success. What's been able to give you success? I mean, do you attribute that to hard work, preparation, good crew? I mean,
that's actually a big part of it. The people that you're around, and the endless nights, in the shop. Like, my brother, he's been here since we got off work.
Right.
And he's just now leaving.
Yeah.
So, help like that. It's, I believe, putting the right combinations together is a big part of it.
Right.
And a lot of people know that I'm hooked up with David Jones. He's done so much for my racing since I got hooked up with him. Like, I can't thank him enough. Like, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be racing this year. Yeah. So he helps me out quite a bit.
Well, David's been around the sport a long time too, and built engines, countless engines, for a lot of people over the years. And it seems like that, one thing I'm thinking about back on your career, and I get the luxury of watching you race. I didn't get to race all the time. I still don't. But, I was watching you race, and you always put on a good show, number one. But you had that ability to do that. But you had equipment that wouldn't quit when a lot of people's did.
Yeah, it's like I said, when we was in it full time, a lot of people don't realize how much time it takes in the shop. It's another full time job. Racing is, when you're in it serious. It's nothing to put 30, 40 hours a week, down at the shop working on the race car.
Right.
And it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and honestly, a lot of help. Like, it's hard to do it on your own, and I can't. So I got a lot of good people helping me, and like I said, David Jones, he's got a lot of faith in me. So,
well, there's a lot of people that do try to do it on their own, and you're gonna find one guy, maybe two guys out of 100, that's racing, that are able to do things on their own without a huge crew, maybe them and another person. But you've been able to surround yourself. I mean, there's guys in here in this shop, they've just headed home, but hey man, these guys have been around since I remember you, man, since I met you.
Yeah.
So they're still sticking by, and your brother races now, pretty much, whenever he can. So they're still around.
Yeah. My brother, and like I said, he's just like my brother, Tandy. My lifelong best friend. He's been with my racing since day one, since we very first built my first race car. He's been there, and he still is. Right. So, and me and him's doing this new asphalt deal together. So, he's part owner on that car. So, right. It's like I said, he's been there since day one. A lot of good help.
Well, and that's important. We talked to several people, and then you just like you said, you've got to surround yourself with people who, they're giving up their time. You got to look at it that way. They're giving up their time to do it for you. But they've got to want to see you succeed, because when you succeed, they succeed.
Exactly.
Not everybody can drive the race car.
Right.
We know that going in. But everybody can contribute to that race win. And that's important to remember.
And that's true. And, and a lot of times it's the drivers, that actually it looks like he's winning the race, but it's them guys that's getting that car ready back in the shop, and you know, climbing underneath of it all week long, and you know that's where the race begins to win at.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, how many times have we heard that? You know, they talk about 80%, 85%, 90% of the races that are won sitting right there on those jack stands.
And that's the honest to God truth right there.
Well, and we can talk about that because the whole time we've been recording this episode, and I know people can hear stuff in the background and people clanging and banging, but that's the thing. They're building a race car in this garage right now, and it's going to be your new cruiser car.
Yep.
It's a sharp looking ride.
Yeah.
I mean, there ain't a whole lot there other than body wise yet, but
yeah. Well, as you know, the cruiser ain't so much cruiser anymore as when we was running cruisers.
No,
so
it's not.
It's one of them deals where we start doing this deal, and I was like, we need to step our game up. So we're gonna bring the best of what we got, and I'm not. Hopefully, it's gonna be enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Them guys are flying at Windy Hollow. They are flying. So, but.
Well, there's at least you think about 3 cars that are very, very tough at Windy Hollow.
Yes.
And Cole Falloway, Chase Estes, and talk about Michael Driscoll.
Yeah.
Another guy that was racing when we were racing. So
I've always had a lot of respect for Driscoll. I've always thought he was a good, smooth, clean driver. So yeah, and he's fast. He's always been fast. So he's always had good equipment. Cole Falloway, the kid's good. He's good. He's smooth. It's another clean driver, and he's got really, really, really good equipment.
Well, he's learned a lot.
Yeah, he has.
Since the first season.
Yes, and, and he's going to be a great race car driver, So, and I like Cole. He was here a few weeks ago when Brooks and him was picking up a car, and I was cutting up with him. So he's a good kid, though. He's a real respectful kid, and Chase Estes,
Well, there you go. Back to
old Chaser Racer. He used to give me a hard time about his dad beating me all the time. So, yeah.
So now you got to wear him out a little bit now.
I will.
Well, stick it to the dad.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about those guys, and Chase has been racing a long time too, and different people, and the cool thing about the newcomer is Cole Falloway, and he was cool enough to sit down and to do an episode with us as well and talk about a lot of his go-kart stuff, but now transition into that stock car. Yeah. And it just seems like he gets more and more experience every week.
Oh yeah, he's definitely came a long way in a short amount of time. So.
Well, and he's another example of having that good crew, having that preparation. They work all week long on that race car from he gets. He's echoing what you're saying. He's doing what you're exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, well, Jeff, we're going to go ahead and roll into another break real quick. We're going to come back. We're going to get into it, man, the state of racing. So I want to hear some thoughts on that. So we'll hear that when we come back.
Well, let's do it.
Fairview IT Management is your one-stop shop for all your home computing needs. But did you know they are also one of Owensboro's leading business automation services, offering network automation, system administration, and remote managed support? Fairview IT Management can become your help desk to help you reduce staffing costs and keep your bottom line low. Give Gabriel Kirtley a call at 270-228-4339 for all your business technology needs.
And we're back, and the white flag's out here at what we're going to call Mace Vegas. We just heard that Jeff Maysey's garage down here. They're organizing tools, and the car's kind of setting now. The work has stopped on the race car, which shouldn't happen, but we've taken the driver away from working on the race car the whole time. But Jeff, I want to roll into something we always ask everybody on this show. We want to talk about the state of racing. And I want to talk about everything that you can think of, right now. If you look at the on-track product and you look at the racing as a whole, now, mind you, we're not here to bash any tracks, we're not here to bash any owners or anything like that, but you think about the racing product and the state of racing now, where are we at? Where do you feel we're at?
Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like that we're at a rebuilding stage, and as far as what I consider my local track, Windy Hollow, Jimmy Westerfield, which is another one I've always been close to my whole life. He's known me since a little kid also. I could say he's really trying. He's really wanting this deal to go. So, they had a bad night, I think the first night or whatever, and, it kind of, I guess, made the track look bad. But, it's going to happen. I mean.
Well, yeah,
And
it's dirt track racing.
And anybody that knows Jimmy real well knows he's a worker. I mean, he hours and hours and hours, and his wife's the same way, Misty. They go without sleep to, you know, make stuff happen. So, and as far as Cedar Ridge, Richard Ashby, you can't beat that guy. I mean, he's you know, they're hell of a people. The Ashby family, I think a lot of them. You know, I haven't known them all my life. They was kind of new into racing, you know, but, you know, I've been fortunate enough to meet them and become, you know, pretty close to them, and they're really great people. So, but Richard, if you're listening or you get this message, Hope for Harley race, let's try to work this deal where the Windy Hollow cruiser cars will be legal to run cruiser over there, if we can make it happen.
Well, I think the person you really need to talk to about that is Angie.
Well, I
We
mean,
get Angie on board. I think she can convince Richard.
please.
Well, I think, you know, something like that. Well, but here's the thing. You know, talking to that point, you're talking about, you know, hey, get it to where the rules will allow me to come down and race. You know, your car is more built for Windy Hollow Speedway. A lot easier pull for you going out there. But, you know, we talk about that, and we're like, you know, run your track rules this, and bring your rule book and stuff. We were talking before we got on the show. We've got to come up with something to solve that. There should not be your track rules. There should be a set of stock car rules that we can race by.
It would be, which, you know, like I said, I've been around racing this has been going on for years. It would be great for all the tracks to get together and have the same rules. I would love to be able to load up and go down there and run, you know. I would love to. But I just wish these guys would get together and, you know, have the same rules.
Well, wouldn't it make life a lot easier? I mean, and you know,
on everybody.
Hey, man, you're not echoing anything that a lot of people haven't said. And, you know, I know from talking to Jimmy and talking to, you know, Richard some, it's not from the lack of trying.
Right.
But we got to meet somewhere.
Right. And, you know, some of that's probably us drivers, you know, well, they got this, they got that, and I don't want to spend this, I don't want to spend that. You know, it's got to be give or take, you know.
Right.
And hopefully we can come up with something, though, where, you know, we can work it out and where your car would be legal to run, you know, at different racetracks in the same class.
Right. And you know, that's important because, you know, I think we're missing an opportunity. I think we're missing a huge opportunity. And I'm not saying that because I'm outclassed or if, you know, some guys got more than I do, because I've looked at your car. Your car's built way different than mine, you know, but we run the same class.
Yeah.
But, you know, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You know, but then again, do you attribute the gap in rules, and I've heard this a couple of times, do we have too many classes? Do we have too many of the same class? When you think about Bomber, Rusty Bolt, Cruiser, and how those classes have been very, very close, you know, just as the last few years.
I'm not for sure if it's that or me looking at it from my point of view. You know, if it's they hand me a set of rules and it says I can do it, then, you know, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But the cars they've honestly, I do feel like the cruiser class has gotten out of hand. I mean, it has, you know, but what do you do?
You're right. What do you do? Because I'm looking at that very thing right now, and talking with the gentleman this week that come out to kind of help me on my car a little bit. You know, he looked at it and he's like, man, you know, why aren't you running Bomber? Because my car's just not. And I'm not complaining about my car. Don't take that that's the way. And I hope nobody listening takes it this way. Yeah. I'm not complaining about my car because I built it the way I wanted to build it, and you build your car the way you want to build your car, and you can't take that away from anybody, and that's great. But you know, he's right. You know, I kind of think that I'm still trying to do something that's a few other guys in the cruiser class are trying to do back the way we used to do stuff. It's just not that way anymore.
No, I was talking to another good friend of mine, which you know, Teddy Revlett.
Right.
You know, I talked to him at the races, and he goes, my car's just it's too heavy, and his heads, and that goes back to it makes it a kind of a money game, and you spend a little bit more money, which a lot of people don't always have.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm one of them, but I'm fortunate enough to have some pretty good help. But I believe in a guy that should be able to run a class that he can afford to run. But there's gray areas that we're going to push if we got to, especially me.
Well, that's the essence of racing, man, and that's what's something that racers been doing since there was racing, and that's the point, But there shouldn't be that big a gap, I kind of think, and whereas where you can build your car to any different track and run, whether that and sadly we're not running Western Kentucky Speedway right now. It's kind of closed down, and that's an unfortunate thing. But you should be able to run it at Western Kentucky Speedway, Cedar Ridge Speedway, Windy Hollow Speedway, and run 3 nights a week. We used to be able to do it, but that's one of those things that maybe we need to look at for the future.
That would be great. I probably personally can't afford to run 3 nights a week every week, but there would be times, where if they put money on the line and we're running good, I would definitely do it,
Right.
So that's something to look at. Like I said, we need to get these track rules together and get everybody on the same page, but, we would go when we could.
And guys, we've got to talk about that. These guys are trying, these track promoters, and we've said this from day one, is each track promoter is different, okay? And each track promoter has their own formula as what they think is going to be successful for their track. And they're business owners, and that's what they've got to look at. But, we as drivers, got to be able to compete to come to their racetracks to have a class to run in.
Yeah. And, as a race car, you're not always going to please us.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not always pleased,
No.
And as hard as I try to be, but we're going to have to come up with something, though. It is kind of ridiculous that a guy can't take a car, and the tracks are so close is the thing about it.
Yeah.
That a guy can't take a car and be legal for there, or, another guy is getting his butt kicked every week because he don't have enough,
Yeah. Well, you're always going to have guys, obviously it's going to get outrun because of certain things, whether it's lack of funds, lack of sponsors, and we talk about that, we were talking about preparation and how, the guy that spends 5 hours a week in the shop versus the guy that spends 50 hours a week in the shop, probably going to be two different ends of the spectrum.
And honestly, that is a big part of it, and that's something that I know that getting back into it, I'm gonna have to work on. Like this year, been putting my car back together. My boy, my son is down here. He spends more time down at the shop than I do.
Right.
And old Dad's gonna have to get on his game and change that. But yeah, that kid is probably down here at least 5 nights a week. And I'm down here probably 3 or 4 right now, but I'm sure when we get going, that's going to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I can be accused of the same thing as, back when I started and through certain years, I wanted to work on a race car all the time. Man, if it wasn't my race car, it was somebody else's race car. I just want to work on a race car. And, I've kind of gotten, and life gets in the way, and you know what it's like when I'm talking about when you get a house and kids and cars and bills and things. Things get in the way. There's a lot of things more important than racing. We talk about we love racing, but then life's got to come first sometimes. And I can be accused of that, kind of being lackadaisical on being able to work on my race car. But it does pay off. It absolutely does pay off. And just like what's been going on tonight with your brother and your crew working on your car, that means a lot to you, and I know it does. And we came in and trying to steal you away as it is, but you know and you trust the crew that's working on your car.
Oh yeah, you see it's very slim, but yeah, I do. I do. My brother, he's done so much for my racing. Like he's been with me since day one. And I've probably been his headache since day one with it. But I can't ask for a better, brother to, and it brings us closer together. It really does. It's something we do together. We go to a bunch of other racing events together, and make it a family thing. And I've always looked up to Jimmy and Randy, how close they was, being brothers.
Absolutely.
And that's about like me and my brother. We're close. We get into it sometimes, but he's always got my back, and I've always got his back.
Well, that's important to remember. That the family does come first, and there hadn't been a minute that we hadn't been here since he's left, that he wasn't in the engine bay of that race car behind you.
Yeah.
And working.
And that's his department, and my department's pretty much fabrication department. We'll do all the welding stuff. There's been nights where he couldn't work on his car, and I'm over there welding and fabricating something for his car. So it's just, he's got his thing he does, to our racing program, and I got my thing I do, and it just, it kind of clicks together.
Well, I want you to talk about something real quick that we heard on the radio show this week, and it's a hot button issue right now. Social media. We're trying to be the bright spot, I guess, in the night with what we're doing with social media, given our Facebook page and different stuff, and we're not touting ourselves. But what we're doing with the podcast, this is absolutely social media, and you can find this on the internet and everything else. But talk about social media and racing, man. We didn't have that back 20 years ago. No. We have it now.
No, we didn't, and as bad as I hate to say it, I think that's, in a way, it helps, but it hurts. What we was talking about earlier when, guys would get into it, and it would be done and over with, the next week. It don't happen anymore. I think, and that has stuff to do with social media. They get on there and people get the mouth, and it just keeps it stirred up. And
it does.
So, but then again, like stuff like this is really awesome. You can talk, tell old stories, get your sponsors out there. This is a good part of it. So, but I think it's the individual also.
Right.
A lot of people put their problems and stuff on social media and their racetrack drama, and then it just keeps it going.
And it does, and that's the thing is we're going to have to, we've got to take a step back, and we've got to think about this, and it's easy for kids, and we were talking about kids earlier, and how much we're doing for kids these days, or trying to make it about them, but how it affects kids more so, because these kids are on their phones, they're on the computers, they're on different, their iPads or whatever, and they see this. Guys would mouth off in the pits and different things like that, and the grandstands maybe didn't see that, but them guys are working it out. But now when you've got crews, spouses, girlfriends, even kids, they're on there, and everybody's got an opinion, everybody's got to say so, and have them, obviously don't know what the heck even went on.
Right.
And that's the thing is, do you see that? I mean, where people just get on there and just go off half-cocked and start, well, I heard this, or I seen that, or everybody's got their opinion.
Yeah, and then the story changes 15 times. So yeah, I mean that's the problem about it, right there. But like I said, I believe it's the person,
Yeah.
Like I've done it. I've been a victim of putting my business on there. It's kind of hard not to do, and it's it's kind of hard not to get on there and look at everybody's drama, because sometimes it's pretty interesting. But but as a racing it's a big family though. I mean, at the end of the day, most of us are pretty good people, and we'll help each other out, and we're gonna we're like I said, we're like family. You get into it with your family, and then, y'all get over it. So.
Well, and sometimes that takes longer than sooner, but, but you're right. Eventually you're going to get over it. And I'm a firm believer of, let's settle things on the track. And I'm not talking about, I have to take everybody out or do this and put them in the wall or this, that. But, you got to settle it on the track. And not on social media, because what does that accomplish? Absolutely nothing.
Nope.
And, I don't know if you feel that way, coming from the background, like I said, again, we can come from this. We come from the same time period of how we used to do it and how we do it now. So, I think that if a lot more people just keep their mouth shut, that would help. But that's not going to happen. But
No.
still yet. But, stay off social media.
Yeah, with the negative stuff.
Because, people, and it's great, when we can get updates on race teams, or hey, you can show the process of building a race car, or hey, my boy's out here working with me, check this out. Hey guys, I'm going to be at Windy Hall Speedway this Friday night.
Yeah.
Come support the 357, Jeff Maysey, and the crew. If you get a chance, come by and say hi, talk to me a little bit, take a picture, whatever. You're doing it for the fans.
Yeah.
And I think that's the positive side of social media. But there's just so much garbage on the other side.
Yeah. Like I said, and I think it has a lot to do with the person, it's, you don't know how many phone calls or how many people that I've ran into said, man, I heard you're getting back in, you're coming back, and I'm glad to see you. You always put on a good show, and, that's, even though I don't show it, that means a whole lot to me, that it really does. So.
Right. Well, it does, and I know it does, but so let's shift that off. We were talking about the advice earlier. Look at what we've got, the on-track product of how Windy Hall is getting so much better week by week, how Cedar Ridge has progressed even since last year, and they put new track surface on it. I think if anybody's listening that owns a racetrack or wants to own a racetrack, put clay on your racetrack. I think it's going to work out for you. But, how many times have you seen this? We've got a great racing product, and it's getting better. You're right. We're in the rebuilding stage, and it's getting better. These kids are have their head down. They're looking at they're watching their phones. They're watching their iPad, watching cartoons, whatever they're doing. They're missing a great thing, man. They're missing an opportunity.
Well, when I was growing up, I went through my stage where I didn't watch the races unless my dad was racing, but it was me and Timmy Birch and Bo Mitchell and there's a few others. Josh Evans. We'd run foot races around the grandstands, and we took each other out a few times running foot races too. But
it started early.
Yeah, it did. But me and Timmy Birch, we always talk about that stuff all the time. He always called me a cheater for some reason. I guess because I was a little bit faster than he was, but at foot racing. But we cut up about it now though.
Right.
So, but that's cool. It's memories shared. Growing up with people.
Well, and some guys, and you think about that list of guys you just talked about. Look at how much success they've had on the racetrack. I mean, including yourself. You four guys. Multiple feature wins, multiple race wins, championships. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think it's part of being raised around it. We're all pretty much second, third generation drivers, so it's when you got the history that we've had, behind it, you're going to have success,
Right.
And just like Cole Falloway, it's third generation race car driver, so there's a lot of time and experience, that goes a long way. It goes back, pretty far.
Well, and you're right. And, you guys, you think about that. You're talking about when you were kids. And again, like I echo that, with these kids, some of these kids are watching, but there's some of these kids that are just not paying attention. And like I've said from the beginning of this show, it's one of those things where, and I know you know what I'm talking about, you can't find the people. You can't find the stories. You can't find the characters like you can find at a dirt track or an asphalt track or whatever that you can find in that pit or them grandstands. You can't do it, man. And it's so freaking cool how it's its own thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. For the few that's getting, like I said, I've been around it all my life, but
Right.
That's new into racing, they're like, man, I thought y'all just ran circles around each other. Then they get into it and get the going. They're like, man, it's pretty awesome,
Oh, yeah.
And it really is, especially after you get to know people and get to know a little bit about them, it changes your whole outlook on it,
Right.
And it makes you look at racing a whole different way. So I advise everybody to come out and at least check it out and get to know people, and you probably end up liking it.
And it will, and I haven't found anybody that I haven't brought to the racetrack, and a new person that may have never been, or have been to different, experienced anything different. And Wes is one of those people that he got to come to the racetrack the first time, and he's been hooked ever since. And it's been one of those things where he didn't know. He's never been around that in his life. But you bring somebody to the racetrack, you can make them a fan. And, well, you don't even have to. The other guys that's out there racing, the fans, the experience is going to make them a fan for life.
And that's true. I totally agree with you. It's, like I said, especially after you get to know people and, and develop relationships and, with people. And, it's cool. It's cool to be out and people come up to me and I don't remember, but they know me from the racetrack, like, hey, Maysey, how's it going? And they sit there and, just like they know you, and I love that. I love being out at Walmart or wherever and then talking to people like that, It's a pretty cool deal.
Well, you've never shied away from talking to people. I know that you love to talk, and it was a different kind of talk way back 20 years ago. But but you love to talk, and I love to talk, and that's what makes this is so special. Is we can sit down, and you're right. We've swapped some old stories and said some old goofy things and different things. But think about racing. I don't want to get off this just yet, but when you think about the state of racing still, what do you like about it? I mean, is there anything we're doing right? Are we going in the right direction with certain things? And I realize, you can leave the rules out of that or different things, but is there anything we're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, stuff like this, it's cool. It gets people's names out there, It gives some exposure. A lot of people don't know my boys, getting ready to get into it. And, right. It's people's trying, we're trying to bring the sport back. Local racing, it struggled the past few years, it got real bad where the tracks was talking about closing down and, right. NASCAR, look at NASCAR. Exactly. I mean, it's struggling right now, bad. And I think a lot of that stems from our local racing, right. Because this is where it all starts at. Grassroots racing is where it starts, period.
Hell yeah.
And we gotta fix this first. So, and I think it's getting better.
Well, we've still got some of the old dogs around and things, and I mean, I guess we're old dogs now, maybe compared to some of the people that are racing. But there's no shortage of talent. I don't see the shortage of talent. Is there? I'll put it this way. I want to ask you this: is there a shortage of talent, or is there a shortage of will to do it?
I believe the will to do it.
Yeah.
The talent, I think, might be there. I'm old school. I think the older guys was way better race car drivers than the newer guys. I mean, that's me. I think they're getting these cars to now where they're so easy to drive with what you can buy, but them old guys had to wheel them cars back in the day, you know? Yeah. So even before my time. So I'm a firm believer in old school. But there's still talent out there. Like I said, I'm not going to take anything away from Cole Falloway. The kid can drive a race car, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. So I speak highly of him all the time. Now, I'm not saying that might not be the same case here in a few weeks, but no, I like Cole.
Well, but that's the thing. You're going to try to outrun him if you can.
Oh,
he's going to absolutely try to outrun you if he can.
Yeah.
Friend, no friend.
Yeah.
You guys are competitors.
Yeah.
And that's what drives the sport.
Exactly.
All right, man. I want you to take your fantasy booking hat. Take your driver hat off. Put your fantasy booking hat on. Okay. Now you think about what we've got in our current product of racing and different things. What are some of the things that you would love to see in the future? Now, this can be anything that we can bring back. This is anything that special events, special races. I mean, I don't care if we're racing, spare tires. Whatever you want to do. Spare tires off the trailer. But, put your fantasy, and you can be anything. Have anything. You're going to promote a racetrack. What's some of the stuff you'd like to see going forward?
Well, like I said, like we've already talked about, I'd like to see these local tracks get together within a certain mile radius and get on the same rule page, I would love to see that, so I can go some other places and run, and everybody else will probably agree with me. I love when we have benefits and charity races, and I love doing stuff for the kids and with the kids. I think there needs to be more of having a bunch of everybody involved, including the fans. Make the fans a part of it.
Absolutely.
More fan appreciation night. Where they get to come down and meet the drivers, and because honestly, this deal won't go without the fans. If we could have us race car drivers out there all the time, if there ain't no fans up there, then there's no point in us being there.
Right.
So I believe that's a big part of it. Let's figure out some way to get the fans more involved.
Well, we've and you're right, and we've talked about that a couple of times on previous episodes of having fan participation, whether that be the drivers walking through the stands at intermission, the drivers pulling their cars out on the front stretch. I don't know that needs to be a weekly thing, but maybe once a month, or not just one night a year. Do we need a fan walk before the races? 30 minutes before the races, an hour before the races. Get these fans involved where, hey, you've got a bag of candy at your races, or at your race trailer.
Yeah.
That you can hand out to kids. You've got pictures that you can sign, because that's one of those things where you're talking about kids. What if people know me from the racetrack, maybe not know me from anywhere else, but they know me from the racetrack. But it could be a kid coming up to you, and what would it mean to that kid? You sign that picture of your race car, and that kid thinks about that for the next 5 years, 10 years, and he's like, you know what? I've watched that dude race forever. He took the time out. He was working on his race car. He took the time out to sign that picture for me. That means something to somebody.
Yeah, it does. And back when, we got this flipper deal going on. Everybody's like, we didn't plan on putting it back on the car.
I was going to ask you about that.
There's been so many people that ask, are you putting it back on your car? So I almost feel obligated to put it back on the car. So I believe we're going to do it. But there was an incident one night. We got pictures and stuff made for Fan Appreciation Night. I got little postcards made, and I had my kids, out there as well, and I gave all my kids one, and we ran out. Ran out. I think I got 100 of them made, and we ran out. So I had to take them away from my kids. I was like, y'all get to see Dad all the time. Let's give them to some of these other kids that don't. So my kids didn't like it too well, but they understood.
Well, talk about that. Listen, we got to know the story now that you brought the Dolphin up, and I'm looking at it right now, guys. You don't understand. We're sitting down here at the garage, and I'm looking at it. It's on top of a chassis right now, but that Dolphin has been around since I can remember.
3 years.
Tell us where the Dolphin came from and where the flipper name came from.
Well, actually, it was the same Uke tire on the back straight at Windy Hollow that claimed 2 of my race cars. Actually, one of them was my brother's car, but the other one was my car. I ended up flipping a car, or 2 different cars, on the back straight at Windy Hollow, so everybody started calling me Flipper. So it was like, oh, Flipper, Dolphin, so it kind of went hand in hand. But that's where that name came from.
I mean, that thing's been, it's iconic on your cars. It's the orange Dolphin with the yellow letters on it, and everybody knows it says Flipper Maysey.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool that it's a gimmick. As some people have nicknames and some people have different things, but it's a gimmick that you can use that people, and you're right, kids are going to recognize that freaking orange Dolphin on the top of your car. You know what I mean? And that's a cool thing.
He's got a brother. We built a Derby car here a couple years ago, and we made another one, and it's fluorescent yellow, so we might put his brother on there. I don't know yet. But the orange one we had a whole lot better luck with, honestly.
Yeah, well, he's no stranger to racing, going around that racetrack. Is there any specialty races or different classes that we don't run now that you would like to see in the future, or different things that we might need to, these track promoters, now this can be any track, that we need to just suggest to these guys that maybe they can work on to get in the future?
I mean, if they want to bring the old Windy Hollow cruiser cars back, I mean, that'd be fine with me. I mean,
fine with me.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, the new cruiser class. I think I'm gonna enjoy because I've got to run some street stock,
right?
At Windy Hollow, and it's pretty much the same. So,
yeah.
And the street stock car was fun. It was fun to drive. So, I think I'm gonna like it. But, I don't. I'd like to see like maybe a crate late model or something class, get going around here, where we ain't got to travel so far to run them. That'd be something that I would probably look into, but if they could make it go. But, like I said, it goes back to a money issue.
Right.
But it'd be neat to see that.
Well, I posted a video on our Facebook page here a while back, and it was a memory that I had from that popped up, I guess, 07 or 08, something like that. From Windy Hollow, the super late models were there, and even Josh Harris was running one. Then he pointed that out. But how cool would it be to have the super late models, or even you talk about wing sprints, non-wing sprints, how that they could come back to those high banks, that super fast track at Windy Hollow Speedway or Cedar Ridge Speedway.
Yeah, I love watching them guys. I'm a big late model fan anyway, so. Anytime late models is around and I don't have anything planned, I try to go watch them. So, that'd be pretty neat.
I think it would too, and I think that's something that we need to look at, and some guys need to take a serious look at, because the fans are craving that. They love the racing and the local racing, but it's pretty cool to bring in some of these big shows too.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Jeff, real quick, I want you to touch on. I always remember, especially when I was racing with you, you run the number 21. 21 was iconic with, especially from your asphalt days.
Yeah.
Tell us about the 21.
The 21, it came about, I used to be a pretty good football player. If I was smart, I probably would have kept playing football. But
Instead of racing.
Yeah, I got hooked on racing. So Deion Sanders, my favorite football player of all time. That's where the 21 came from.
Prime, baby. Prime time.
Yeah, that's right. We had a lot of success with it. Like I said, then I got hooked up with Kink, and we had a lot more success with the 357.
Right.
So
I was going to get to that.
And my big little brother's trying to steal my number right now, but we're kind of in a little match over that. No. But yeah, I like the 357. It's I think it's a cool number. I think my boy's going to inherit that number also.
Oh, yeah.
So 357's got a lot of history behind it also. It means a lot to us, for real.
Well, it had there's a couple cars that had the bullet holes in it and everything else, man, for the 357. And there's been a lot of cool-looking cars that's had that number on it, especially out of the Steve Bowman Kink Garage.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of stuff with it. The bullet hole, that idea was pretty cool. I thought about doing it this year, but I don't know. Hopefully Josh Tyler comes up with something pretty cool for the dirt car. So
I think you will, and you can see what Hey, shameless plug for us, because High Octane Racewear and Graphics is a sponsor of this podcast, yes. and they've always helped us out on our cars, since a couple of years ago, and always made them look good. So you're right. I guarantee you, Josh Smallage can come up with something out of this world for that 357.
Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see.
It's got to keep it a secret now.
Well, a lot of guys post a bunch of pictures on Facebook, and we're kind of, I guess y'all see it at the racetrack here shortly.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, because that's good publicity. It's like, if you want to see it, you got to come to Windy Hollow Speedway to see it.
Exactly. Hopefully, Cedar Ridge for the Hope for Ollie race too. Ashby.
We can get him. We're going to talk to him. We're going to see what happens. Jeff, buddy, we can't thank you enough for coming on this show, and we know you've got a ton of people and a ton of sponsors, or just a few sponsors. It doesn't matter. But people that help you out, and we that's what this show is all about, is those sponsors. And I know we wait till the end. That's okay, because we're going to give them their own time. So just, buddy, pony up your list and tell us about those people that help you out, and tell us about those sponsors.
Well, the sponsor list's pretty short, but first and foremost, I got to thank David Jones. We talked about this deal last year, putting it together, and unfortunately, we didn't get it done. It didn't go through. Pretty sure the word's out. He's he owns the power plant in my car, so it's his baby.
It is what it
So
is.
he's got faith in me. He always has. He's always had my back since we hooked up together. So I gotta thank Jones's Machine.
Right.
And then also gotta thank South Styles Landscaping. It's Austin Moore's business.
Right.
He's helped me out this year.
Right.
Kink's Custom Cages. If I need anything they got laying around over there, them guys help me out. My brother, I mean, you see what he does. He comes over here and works on my car, and he works on my car sometimes when I'm not working on it.
Right.
And my son Cameron, he works on it when I'm not working on it. He's a pretty big help to me. Tandy, you gotta thank him. Pretty sure I'm going to forget somebody, and I apologize in advance.
Well, if you do, we can always throw them on there for you. It doesn't matter. We're willing to do that because not just that they're our sponsors, they're a sponsor of racing. Yeah. And that means a lot to us.
Yeah, I got to thank Hudson Machine Shop. We got in a pinch Monday morning, and we needed a part done. They hooked it up. So I'd like to thank them guys, Eric Brooks down there, Willie. They helped me out. Jody Wales. He built the body on my car, and he's done quite a bit of work. He's going to go to the racetrack with us. He's getting back into it.
Wow.
Jody's helped me out quite a bit this year, actually, on more than just racing level, even with my personal life. He gives me good advice. I don't always listen, of course. Everybody knows me, but, he's like an uncle to me. So, I got to thank that guy quite a bit.
Well, I haven't heard that name in quite a while.
Yeah.
So that's good that he's still with you.
Yeah.
And still doing the thing.
Yeah. You're probably going to be hearing more of them here lately, hopefully.
Well, Jeff, buddy, I've had a heck of a good time. It's been a long time since we sat down and talked.
Yeah.
And just had a conversation about racing and something we both love, and we've done. Like I said, the timeline's kind of been the same on some of our career. And we've been around each other a long time. Some good, some bad. More good than bad. So, and I'm glad that we sat and talked, not just today, but a long time ago. That way, they provide the opportunity for today.
And I'd like to thank you guys also. It's a pretty cool deal y'all are doing, and hopefully one day soon we can get my brother and possibly my boy on here, and
absolutely.
Hopefully he has some stories to share. Hopefully he can act right, but. Yeah.
It's your son.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't know.
That's what I'm afraid of.
But we definitely want to, and we talk about getting the capability, and we've got several more microphones now, so that is definitely a doable situation, and we want to do that here in the near future. That because family thing is one of our big deals too. Is family racing teams, and you guys definitely are that, and you're an embodiment of that, and it shows and it pays off.
Yep. Like I said, I appreciate you guys doing this and y'all coming out, and y'all are more than welcome here anytime.
Well, we appreciate it, Jeff, and like I said, man, good luck up on this incumbent season. Not as good luck as I hope I have, because I want to beat that 357. So because it's been a long time since we've been on a track together. So
yeah, it has.
But that's okay, and like I said, hey, man, if we run afoul of each other, I'm hoping we can talk about it, and I want to have a good time with you, and I want to have a good time with all those guys.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Well, we appreciate it, Jeff, and we're going to throw it to the last break here, and we'll be back on the other side to close this episode out.
Having trouble getting your business vehicle noticed? Want your race machine to look sharp on and off the track? Give Josh Tyler a call at High Octane Wraps and Apparel. They specialize in high-quality vinyl graphics as well as full vehicle vinyl wraps. They can handle jobs of all sizes, whether it's your racing go-kart all the way up to your semi-truck. With a quick turnaround and design and install, you can truly call today and look good tomorrow. Give them a call at 270-929-2605 or stop by their shop located at 2531 West 2nd Street in Owensboro.
And we're back from the break. Going to close this episode out. Man, we're back at the old kitchen table here in Whitesville, having made a field trip down to Jeff Maysey's garage. Wes, did you learn anything?
I know I say this every single time, and I know I say it, whenever we get done recording an episode. I mean, wow. First and foremost, fantastic human being. You know, he welcomed us into his shop, his rather large shop.
It's pretty big.
It was just a cool thing to see his family all in there working on their race cars together. There were little kids running around the shop.
You probably heard them in the background, but you know what? That's okay. And we were
No,
glad.
it's a family affair.
It is.
And, you know, with his son, his son Cameron sat there when he wasn't working on the race car. He sat right beside Jeff and, listened to the conversation. He laughed, he nodded, he was part of it, so it's a damn cool thing to see just how involved people's families are.
Right. And that's absolutely true, man. And that's it was a great time. I got to tell you, man, I haven't talked to Jeff in quite a while about racing stuff anyway. I've talked to him here and there. But we hadn't got a chance to sit down and shoot the breeze and talk about some of the old stuff and some of the old new stuff and some of the stuff that's on the horizon. Maybe we can make new memories. We're going to be racing the same class, so we'll see what happens. I mean, anything can happen. Hopefully the great things happen and not the bad things. So, but there's potential of it all.
And
but we're not looking at it that way.
As someone who kind of got a sneak peek as to what's to come with his racing product, those cars look amazing.
Yeah, they look pretty good, man.
We're looking at mostly bones right now. There's not a whole lot of skin on them, but they were some fantastic looking machines.
Well, the cruiser car is coming along, and that's basically what they were looking at. So if you didn't know, Jeff Maysey is coming back out for the 2018 season. He will run cruiser, mostly at Windy Hall Speedway, but we're gonna, at his behest, we're gonna try to sway Richard and them for the Hope for Harley race coming up very soon. About 4 or 5 weeks now.
Yeah.
We're going to sway them to maybe try to run your track rules in the cruiser division down there. So we'll see what happens. If you're listening,
Richard, Angie,
yeah.
Mikey.
Jeff pleasantly asks that maybe he be allowed to come down there. So anyway, it's pretty cool. We joke, but he's right. He brought up some good points, reference to that on the rules, and he's not really able to go run at Cedar Ridge Speedway based on his current car configuration.
Right.
And of course, we're not going to give away any of his secrets. But as a fellow driver, I know what to look for, and I found some things that's not on my car, but that's okay.
It amazes me. Again, I'm an outsider coming into this community,
right.
and the way that everyone I've met is just so fantastically welcoming. It's a cool thing, and to be able to share in these stories and hear this history and sharing the laughs, I think we're doing the thing that we need to do, and we're getting this stuff out there, and we're sharing opinions, and some may be controversial and some might not, and some may ruffle some feathers, but I think
that's okay.
I think we have to be those people who help deliver that message.
Guys, we got to have thick skin, and that's the way it is. People are going to be critical of things, and not really a whole lot of stuff in particular that we're talking about, but I'm just saying in general, people are going to ruffle your feathers. Not everything you do is somebody going to like. Trust me, it happens all the time. I see it every day. So don't we call it the butt hurt. We'll keep it PG.
We do. Yep.
It's the butt hurt, and a lot of people tend to get the butt hurt easier these days than they have in the past. So let's not maybe take it so hard, but take it as something maybe if one person's saying it, I bet a bunch of people are thinking it. So
that's probably true.
Again, we're getting off on a tangent, and we don't want to do that.
But no, Jeff, it's a cool deal.
It is.
Listening to. And he gave us a lot of great ideas of other people we can talk to and other guests we can get on the show. And it'll be awesome to, add his family, his brother and his son, down the road as a multi-guest episode.
Well, we definitely want to get Chris Hagan on, his brother, but for his own episode. Just, we're going to tell about his whole career because, he's quite a bit older than Jeff and has raced quite a bit of years too and found a lot of success and is still having success to this day. Again, another guy who's a link to the old school, link to the new school. So run both asphalt and dirt, mostly asphalt these days. He loves it and is doing quite well. It's really pretty car.
Mm-hmm.
And, doing quite well. So, we want to get him on for his own episode. But again, guys, we're getting more equipment, and we promise you, Wes went to the radio show Monday night and kind of hinted around that, we're going to try to do some episodes to where we do have multiple guests and or co-hosts or whatever we want to do, And it's my friggin' podcast. No, it's everyone's podcast.
It's y'all's podcast. We're just the monkeys behind the mics.
We're just the guys out here rambling. So it's everyone's podcast, and this podcast is for the whole racing community. And if you don't believe that, please hear me when I say that. It's your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're doing this for you. We're absolutely doing it for you. That's the whole point. So, guys, to put a bow on today, it was an awesome trip down to Jeff's garage and talking with him. And who would have thought that we'd hear stories about the Estes family?
Right.
And how many stories we heard about Kink, Steve Bowman. Been around the racetrack for a long, long time. Been in racing for a long, long time. John Shown. You look at how many parallels there are about how they got started and how they got help. Jeff's been there. So.
Well, and then listening to the story about how he and as a kid, running laps around the the grandstands.
Mitchell and Josh Evans, and those are guys who's had really, really big success in racing.
And it's on top of that, the camaraderie and the family. They're all still friends today. They all pitch in and help out each other, and it's great to see how this community comes together like that. I think that's one of the biggest things that has amazed me this entire journey, these 14 episodes, this year and a half that I've been doing this with you.
Year and a half?
Well, not the podcast, hanging around the racing community. The fact that every perception that I had, every misconception that I had about what a racer was, what dirt track racing was, they've all been pretty much destroyed. I will be honest. I had kind of a negative view when I first came into it, and that has totally changed now. I have so much respect for you and the other drivers and the teams that put their blood, sweat, and tears in all of this, that maybe might get a chemical burn, from time to time. But no.
It's serious, man. I mean,
no, it's great, and
I
love
sport.
it. I've got dirt in my blood, I guess, now.
Well, that's a good thing, man, because that's you guys. That's a true testimonial as how we can make fans, and just take them to the damn racetrack. That's all you got to do. And I'm a firm believer of that, and it's a tried and true method. Anytime I've ever done it, I've got somebody who loves racing.
Time and time again, we keep hearing other drivers echo the same sentiment. So,
But here's the thing, guys, and I'm not saying you got to buy a pit pass and different stuff. Hey, it's great, support the track, but get out and talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to racers, talk to drivers. If you see a guy wearing a racing suit, go talk to him. He's probably trying to get some cheeseburger from the cafe or wherever, but go talk to him. They're going to talk to you.
Getting cheese sticks at Cedar Ridge after you climb that hill.
That's exactly right. Man, you need to. It's refuel from the hill climb there. You got to climb the mountain at Cedar Ridge, but we've been doing it for years, so I'm no stranger to that. But that's the thing. Just get out and talk to these drivers. I think Jeff echoed the call of if we got to get more fan interaction. And, he echoed the call of a couple of different people who have been on the show before. I think we're hearing the same, and we're not hearing the same stuff. It's not a broken record. But here's the thing, guys. People are saying the same thing. People are the same mindset.
If the fans aren't in the stand, you're not building the next generation of racers. You're not getting people to support the track. And if you can't support the track, drivers aren't going to come.
That's right.
So, butts in seats. We've talked about that before.
Well, that's not just the grandstand. That's in the race cars. So, it takes a lot it takes a big commitment for these guys to build a race car, to want to build a race car, to bring to these tracks. And we need to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to do that. And we need to make it easy as possible for them to get their sponsors out there and different things and interact with the fans. And that's not even just their fans; it's everybody else's fans. Because if maybe you like, it's like any other sport. You like one driver over the other. That's the way it is. That's the spirit of competition, and that's the way you want it. Because if you don't have drivers rooting for and against, it's not any fun. So, that's the thing, guys. Is we got to listen to that. We've got to listen to what people are saying. People got good ideas. It is what it is, man. I don't know. We're starting the conversation. No, we're not just starting it, man. We're just putting each different chapter on the conversation.
We're continuing the conversation.
We are continuing the conversation. Now, having said that, the conversation is going to stop for this week because, by golly, we've said a lot.
We have
said a lot, and probably more than we should have said, but that's okay. Jeff definitely gave us a pretty good meat of the show there. Straight, no chaser. It's good stuff. So now, on to our stuff real quick. Our sponsors, Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Cards, Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glennstone Construction, Kevin Russell down there at Speed Slingshot Media Group, Red Star Graphics. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, hashtag get it now, whatever. Facebook, Conway Racing Team, Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram, Conway Racing. And as always, you can find it on the website, www.conwayracingteam.com. We're overhauling, that's with an N apostrophe, on the website, and it's going to look great. Flying the new colors now, so we need to update with the times. So Wes is doing that. Well, not right now because we're recording. So,
right.
And it's going to screw it up if he starts clicking.
It's a true story.
So we better not do that.
True story.
Some of you haters might want us to start clicking. No, please don't hate. Enjoy what we're doing. It's for you. Again, we're saying that it's for you. It's your podcast. So now, with having said that, we want to make sure we thank High Octane Racewear and Graphics for their support on the show. Also, Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop in Marion, Illinois, for their support on the show. Especially Billy Igler for what he's done for us as our race team. Always a friend of the show, Blake Smith, Regional Motorsports Power Hour. Every Monday night, Maloney's in Owensboro. Mm-hmm. Maloney's Pizza and Wings. Go there. Get you 25% off of specialty pizza during the show.
Yep.
It's good stuff. Start every show with a prayer from Rusty Allison, and then you better get your butt up, take that hat off, and we're gonna play the national anthem. So that's a pretty good deal. You can catch that every Monday night. Again, like we said, 7 to 8:30, an hour and a half show now. So good, they had to extend it.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we're gonna get to 2 hours. I don't think it's a bad thing. Our show's 2 hours. Why can't the radio show be 2 hours? You can find them 102.7 ESPN The Game, 94.7 simulcast on 94.7 WBIO. Always go check out Performance Racing Weekly, Billy Igler's site that he has on there. You can find them on Facebook. Look in their archives. A lot of great interviews there. Hopefully we can throw some dynamite on his couch and blast him out to do some more interviews. He's always been great at it, man, and I do love listening to what he's got to do and got to say. So, and he definitely knows how to interview those drivers. So
he does,
and or crew members. So it's good stuff.
And always, we try to say this at least once an episode, if not every other episode. If you have opinions, if you have comments, if you have suggestions,
keep them to yourself. No, don't do that.
Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever they are, we need to know.
We have, and we heard comments in person this week. Maybe not the easiest to hear a little bit, but it was true. It's truth. And
we take them. We take what people say. Few and far between, but we take what people say and we grow with them.
Absolutely.
It's what we want to do. We want to continue to represent ourselves, our guests, you guys, our sponsors, motorsports as a whole. We want to represent you the best way we can, and we can't do that unless we hear from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, be vocal. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. It's not going to hurt our feelings, guys. Trust me. That's just what I said. It's not going to hurt your feelings. You can be critical. Yeah, exactly. You can be critical of it. This is a no butt hurt zone, and it's okay.
Yep.
So now I'm not inviting you to trash it. Now, come on.
I mean, if you need to, then if
it makes you feel better.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah. Crying makes you feel better. Yeah, whatever. So again, guys, from the bottom of our hearts, as we do every episode, we thank you for listening.
Especially if you've listened this long.
I fell asleep an hour ago. No, I didn't. But no, we appreciate it, guys. And sometimes we get long-winded, but you guys stick with us. The downloads are evident of that.
They are.
They're climbing every week. We're doing good things.
Mm-hmm. Going to continue to do good things.
If you even knew what we're working on.
And he's not just hyping something just to hype it. Seriously, we've got major things coming.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. So anyway, with that, for Wes, the carburetor, and Lou Allen, Hope we're going to change that. We're going to fix that problem this week. I'm Nathan Conway. Thank you for listening, guys.
We appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to the best up-and-coming motorsports podcast on the internet. Tune in next week to see who we're trading paint with on the Bent Fender Podcast.